Hi, everybody. My name is Shane Foley, and I decided to do my research paper on grief counseling. I decided to do this because I don't have a lot of experience personally with grief, knock on wood, and I just feel a little uncomfortable when it comes to helping students that are going through grief. I've finished almost 2 semesters now of internships, and both semesters we've come encounter with situations where children have been grieving, and situations have happened, some worse than others. And my mentors have shared their knowledge and their wisdom of techniques and therapies and strategies and everything else that they've used in those situations. And I think that they'll tell you that it's not easier as you go forward, but there are things that you can do to ease it a little bit. So one of the first points in my paper that I make is that the people who get help when they're bereaving surpass the period easier. So this means the people who didn't get help had a more tough time. I don't want to say getting over the incident, but learning to live with it, and it affected other parts of their life more than it could have if they would have gotten help. So that's an important piece to remember as a school counselor, that you're trying to help their lives and them come up with strategies and coping skills in order to live the rest of their life, because they could be sad for a long time. So one of the parts in my paper that I think is really tough, that one of my mentors actually had to go through, was a death in a school. It was an anticipated death in a school. The child, I believe, had cancer, and so they all had to prepare. Everybody had to prepare. So when a death hits a school, everyone is affected. The best thing that you can do is develop a crisis or support plan. If you have that plan in place, you have people put on certain jobs to take care of certain areas. In that case, you can bring like a trauma team in if you need to. If it hits too close to home, you have to know when to say, okay, I'm going to step down from this and I'm going to let somebody else take a hold of this plan. So you always want to have some backup people too that can take your spot if you need to. When this incident happens, like I said before, everyone in the school is affected. That's not just the student or their parents. It's the teachers, it's the counselors, it's anyone who has interacted with the student. Students that haven't even met this person before might feel the effects of it. So in my paper, I talk about different ways that you can help these students. So for one example is, if you know a student isn't doing good, and even if you know that they may not pass away, but they're going through cancer treatments and they're going to come home, one thing that you can do is explain to the students that the student John went away for a little while. He had to have some treatments, and he may come back and he may not be the same. He might not have his hair anymore. He might not be as energetic. And so you kind of have to get on their level at explaining it to them. Before you do this, though, it's important to be in contact with their parents. That's the first thing that you need to do. Talk to their parents, find out their parents' wishes about what their parents want the school to know. Don't reveal any extra information that they don't want you to. Don't speak to the media. You normally have somebody that works in your school district that will talk to the media in that type of situation, and the quotes have to come directly from the parent. So you can't just give out whatever information, even if you think it might be effective, which it might be, but you have to go with the parent's wishes with that. So also within a school, what you can do in these instances when there's a death in the school, or just in general, what you can do is have group counseling sessions. I did a little piece in my paper about something called remembering. It's like RE-membering. This is where the focus is on living your life with this like new person. So in the group, you would introduce this person to everybody and explain their life, explain who they are, what they did, what they do, and all that kind of stuff. And you make a membership card for them. And on that membership card, it just says everything about them, and you keep it with you. And so this is a way to think that even though their body's not here anymore, basically their soul is still with you. And if they don't believe in souls or anything, that the person is still a memory, and to keep that memory alive, and by talking about it with other students is really helpful. And then that way people can relate to other people. You can talk about the person that you lost, and you're reliving them. So let me switch gears a little bit because I'm actually running out of time. I can't believe how fast these videos go by. Gifted children, that is a group that you actually have to be very careful with as well, because they have emotions that might be a little bit more intense. They have the ability to think more progressively than some students might. So you could have, like a fifth grader that goes through a loss who is a gifted student, but like mentally they're on like 8th, 9th grade level. So you just have to really be careful when it comes to different gifted students. And in this case, you can use different materials like art, music. A big one I saw that I really liked actually was nature. They stress that gifted students have the ability to think forward and to put things into perspective, and nature helps clear your mind and helps you think about the world in a different way, sort of. So just be mindful of that. Another group of students to be aware of are ADHD students. So we are living in a society where we assume that any kid who acts up or any kid who has a behavior problem is ADHD. And we refer them, and they just assume that they're ADHD, and they put them on medicine, and that might not be the solution, because a lot of kids will portray ADHD like symptoms and signs when they're going through grief. And a type of grief could even be like PTSD. They could be going through that, and when this happens, that's not good, because they're not getting the type of therapy and care that they need. So another one is even divorce. I know a lot of people have divorced parents. I'm thankful mine are still together, but a lot of my friends, when we were younger, parents, they did get a divorce, and it affects kids. It affects their attention span, and so when they're sitting in class and they might not be paying attention to that math assignment or whatever it might be, we can't always just assume that it's ADHD. Dig deeper. ask questions and poke and prod a little bit and figure out, talk to their teachers, talk to the principal, talk to the secretaries. That's one thing I've learned in my internships as well, is secretaries know a lot of information. So if you want to know a little bit more about personal things like that, they're good people to reach out to. And one thing that kind of hits home for me is military children. A lot of areas that have a military presence around them have a skyrocketed number of diagnosed ADHD students. Is this a coincidence? I don't know. But the article that I read said that a lot of these students have parents that are being deployed. They're being sent to Afghanistan or Iraq or on a ship. And so the student's not going to be like 100% there all the time, because maybe their dad just left or their mom just left, or they've been hearing things that their mom they've been talking about at home that, is scary. So we need to be aware of that. We need to know what's going on in our students' lives. And we can't just jump to conclusions all the time. Some other points that I made: gender differences. Boys are told not to cry, not to show emotions. So as a school counselor, you need to be aware of that. Also, culture. Be aware of what that student's culture is, what they believe, what they believe in death, and how they're coping with it at home. That way you can kind of use the same language and be on the same level. Not saying that you have to believe what they believe, but it helps. It helps to be on the same page, and I think it shows the parents a lot, or whoever their guardians are, that you're taking the initiative to know about them. And my last point I want to make, because I'm running out of time, is referring to outside resources. That's one of the things that school counselors, I think a lot of people think that, well, if I can't fix it, no one can, or this is my problem, I'm going to fix it. No, you need to be able to refer out if you need to. Refer them to psychologists or psychiatrists. Or something that's really good that I read about was residential grief camps. If the student is that upset and their life is that altered, these grief camps are amazing for these kids, because it puts them around a group of people who are sort of going through the same thing they are. They can share stories. They have different types of therapies: art, fine arts, swimming and hiking and group, and they do all sorts of wonderful things, and they have all sorts of people to help monitor the student and watch them and make sure that they're doing okay. So that's a good thing to do too. So refer to outside sources if necessary. Okay, so I've run out of time. I've actually gone over. But thanks for letting me present, and I hope that you guys learn at least a little bit about grief counseling. It's something that none of us want to do, but unfortunately walks into our office probably a little bit more often than what we would like.